Hey everybody, what's going on? Carter here. This is a video request from a viewer. Feels weird saying a viewer, but yeah, somebody that watches my video, they made a request for a specific topic, and I figured it would make a pretty cool video, so we're going to do it. This is about sharpening choils. Basically, what are they? What is the point? Does it matter? Do you like them? Who cares? You know, that kind of thing. First off, I like sharpening choils. I prefer them. However, they are not a deal breaker for me. If I come across a knife that I want that doesn't have a sharpening choil, not a big deal. I get it anyways. But if I could choose, I would choose to have a sharpening choil on all my knives. So I've actually got a bunch of different knives here, and we're going to take a look at them and explain what a sharpening choil is. Well, first off, what is a sharpening choil? Well, a sharpening choil, unlike... Do I have any here that actually have a full choil? Oh yeah, so this has like a full choil right here. So it's an unsharpened area is what it's considered. Sharpening choil is pretty much just like that, but it's really small and it's behind the edge, right there. That is a sharpening choil. So this has a sharpening choil. This Brad Southard has a sharpening choil. This one isn't quite as pronounced, but it is still a sharpening choil right here. This is not a choil that you'd put your finger in. It's simply there for sharpening. Let's see, what else do we have? This is kind of an interesting one. I pulled that one out for a specific reason. This has a sharpening choil. I would consider that a sharpening choil. Even though it's not really a notch cut out in the blade, it functions the same. Now, what is the point of a sharpening choil? All it does, well, one, it gives your knife a kind of a cleaner look. Because you don't have kind of like this Para 2. Seems that a lot of Spyderco, US Spydercos do not have a sharpening choil. But to see how that edge just runs into the Ricasso relief, I guess you'd call it right there, just kind of smacks into it. Same with this Yojimbo 2. It just kind of stops right there and smacks into it. So you don't have that clean stop. And when you're sharpening, especially after you've done a lot of sharpening on a knife, you're going to start running your stones or whatever into this. You know, it gets kind of messy down in this area. And you just don't have that nice clean edge. And in some instances, like this Sebenza, it actually affects cutting performance. With this Sebenza, you've got a nice edge all the way to the end. You've got this great space right here so that you can get to the material you want to cut and just slice right through it. With something like this, you could potentially run into problems back here. This may bump into the material. You got to make sure and keep whatever you're cutting ahead of this. You don't want this hitting into it. So it's pretty easy to see which one would kind of relieve that potential issue. By having this nice clean edge that stops right here, and it gives you plenty of room so that you can get into your material. You're not bumping into the Ricasso. I believe that's what this portion's called. Forgive me if that's wrong. Same with this one right here. This one's kind of a shame because it kind of has something similar to, well, not a shame, that was a lame thing to say, but it has something kind of similar to this Sebenza here, except it's not sharpened all the way to the end. I've tried to kind of sharpen it to not very good results. So this one really isn't quite executed all that well. You've still got this chunk of flat steel back here that not only looks kind of crappy, but it could potentially get in the way. You know, it would be nice if, and all you need to do is just bring this forward just a little bit so that you get rid of this extra thick material back here. And this nub, this big nub of steel back here would be gone, and you could bring this edge just to a complete stop, and then you'd have a nice little clearing right there so that you know, it wouldn't run into anything. And you could, it looks like you could do it without, I believe, without affecting the stop. Yeah, should be able to cut that nub right out of there. So yeah, anyways, moving along. The reason I brought this one into the mix, this one has a sharpening choil, but I have never seen a cold steel actually sharpen all the way to the sharpening choil. You can see there, it's actually a big flat piece of steel right here. So I find that kind of funny that it has a sharpening choil, so they could sharpen it all the way to it, and you'd have this complete edge right here. but I've never seen them actually sharpen it all the way to that choil. It always stops just barely short on there. So yeah, like I was saying, it's not a huge deal. A lot of it's just looks. It just looks so much cleaner when you get that edge. It doesn't get messy. You can see how this kind of gets a little messy because it just kind of stops and then just rams right into here. And the more you sharpen it, it's going to kind of start to concave up. Whereas with a knife design like this, a blade design like this, with that choil there, you know, in theory, you could sharpen this down quite a bit. It's still going to look very clean. It's still going to look very nice. You're going to have a complete total edge all the way from tip to end, uninterrupted. Whereas this, it's going to continue to kind of eat up into the blade, if that makes any sense. So that's what a sharpening choil is. Just allows a little bit ease of sharpening your knife, and it gives you a nice clean edge that just stops. You know, it just kind of perfect edge stops. It doesn't run into a big chunk of steel or leave a big steel nub kind of like this one. All right, guys, hopefully that clears it up. Let me know if I missed anything. I'm sure I did. I will talk to you guys later in the next video.